Lights are hot.
Are we live? Is this going? Hi everyone, Alex Kai's here, and this is a home in Seattle. Today, we're doing Culinary Institute with Chef Nick.
Hi everybody, I'm Nick. I was a chef for like 12 years, and now I'm in front of you cooking food with you. So let's get into it. We're going to go through a number of things to get to where we can actually eat our food. We're going to start off with the batter, go into poultry fabrication, get into cleaning, blanching, and chalking your green beans. Then we're going to fry a lot of garlic, and then we're going to finish our green beans and fry our chicken at the same time. After that, we're going to plate it, and we're going to eat it, and we're going to have a good time. So let's get into it. First, we're going to make... This is so weird.
This is great.
Yeah, I just need to... You know, it's funny because he was totally right. You know, you put the camera on, and I'm just like... But I'm actually fine.
I want to show everyone what we're working with here. There's a lot going on. So we have, in the kitchen, we have a microphone over there. We have a camera right here. Hector is manning everything. And please write some comments, and Kendall will respond and let me know. We have more microphones. This is legit.
So make sure that you have all your equipment provided in the list of equipment and ingredients. We're going to start making the batter. This batter is a pretty basic batter. It's potato starch, all-purpose flour, baking soda, salt, pepper, some eggs, maybe some water if we need it. So one half cup of potato starch. I have my measuring cup here with little cheat sheets on the inside if you can see that. And I'm making a mess already. Don't be afraid to make a mess.
How much?
Half cup. Half cup of potato starch. And you can totally eyeball this. I eyeball this stuff all the time. I used to make this for family meal, and you know, who doesn't love fried chicken?
What is family meal?
Family meal is family meal in restaurants is when everyone eats something right before a shift and have like pre-shift talk. You talk about what the specials are. You talk about what we're trying to push, what we're trying to sell the most of, what we have a lot of inventory of, and we're also like trying to inhale food at the same time. So it has to be lots of energy, lots of usually carbs and protein, a little bit of vegetables, something that tastes really good that you can shove down your face really quickly. Fried chicken is easy,
nice.
You know, for that scenario. So we always did that. AP flour, we're going to go a third cup. See, I can just use the same cup over and over, and I don't have a problem with it because it's all in there. A third cup of all-purpose flour. Then we're going to go a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder.
Now, I always keep my baking powder for too long.
Oh, really?
How often should you be replacing it?
Well, if I use baking powder or baking soda, it's baking soda. For cooking, I usually keep it in the cupboard for maybe maximum 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll just shove it in the fridge until it's not as usable. It's cheap. I need it in the fridge anyways because I have a lot of leftovers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to just throw it in the fridge. Salt, I'll eyeball my salt, but I did write down a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and pepper. So you can put as much salt in there if you want, but this is what you season your chicken with, so I think I'm gonna go a little bit more. I like restaurant salty. You know, just salty enough to where you want more, but it's kind of a little bit too much. You know what I mean? I mean that's what they do. They put a little bit more salt. That's why things like MSG were invented, because then you can just enough where it's just it's so good.
Oh, they probably sell more drinks that way too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. 1 egg. Now you can add more egg if you don't want to add a bunch of water, so you have a little bit thicker consistency. But I like to just start off and then I'll work my way into it. And you don't want it too clumpy because you want a little bit of clumps. So think like pancake batter, because there's a lot of potato starch in there, so you're gonna have less of a gluten problem, where it gets really, tough and not so nice textured. I wish there was music playing right now, but there's not.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, that's the thing, is like when you're cooking in a restaurant, you're always listening to something. And I'm making a mix.
Can you just do a little recap of what was in there?
So we put a 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour, a 1/2 cup of potato starch, salt and pepper to taste, and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Pretty simple. I'm gonna put that in the sink. I'll give it another whisk because there's a couple big clumps in there, but that can go in the sink. We're gonna put that aside. Clean up our station. I'm gonna put this over here actually. Salt and pepper. Now it's time to break out your chickens. Now I got mine at QFC. They're on sale right now for 99 cents a pound. Best time to buy chickens. I buy at least 3 at a time, throw them in the freezer. Last you a while. These are great, by the way. These stashers, I stopped buying plastic bags. These will last forever. Not forever, literally, but...
Where do you get those? Can you show those again?
Oh, yeah. So my wife bought these. You can get them on their website. She got them for 30% off. You can actually sous vide in these. So if you have a sous vide and you want to make a steak, this is the way to do it.
What is that, silicone?
It's a silicone, yeah. So I think it's the same stuff that silicone spatulas are made out of, but it's more flexible. And
Nice.
you know, I have a silicone spatula that I use when I make pastry, but eventually they do break down. But I've had it for years, so this is pretty cool stuff. Now, one thing I forgot to do first off, but you didn't see me do off camera, was actually wash my hands. So if you haven't washed your hands, please wash your hands. I did wash my hands though, you just didn't see it.
He swears.
I mean, you saw me do it.
I saw you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody saw me do it. And if you don't know how long to wash your hands, just sing the ABCs twice. I'm not going to sing the ABCs,
No?
but you can sing the ABCs.
I think we should sing it.
Well, I'm already almost done. So maybe the next time I wash my hands, which would be immediately after breaking down the chicken.
We have a question here.
We have a question.
You said a 1/2 teaspoon, let's see, you said a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, but the recipe says 1/2.
Oh,
It doesn't matter. Do they need to start over?
you can add a little bit more if you want to. It's not going to make that big of a difference. It just makes it more poofy. Like, it depends on how poofy you want your batter. It just gives it a little bit of rise. It's not enough to really make that big of a difference. I just can't read my own handwriting, so it's the downside of being a lefty. It adds volume to your batter, if that makes any sense. So I'm just going to give it a rinse. Oops. Very nice sink.
Okay, can you talk about this chicken a little bit?
This is a whole local chicken from here in Washington, Draper Valley. This is the chicken this is my go-to chicken. I buy this chicken all the time. They sell it at QFC. They sell it at, that's really the only place I go to right now because it's up the corner. But you can also buy a Ranger chicken. That's another good local one. There's a couple other local chickens. If you know a farmer, that's the best way to get your chicken. I actually have chickens and ducks, but I'm not going to eat them because they're for eggs. So it's good to dry off your bird. So I'm going to grab a couple more of these. I'm going to use up your paper towels. I hope you don't mind.
That's great.
But it's easier to work with fabrication if you dry off your animal first so it's not sliding all around. What?
Dry your animal.
Yes, dry your animal. So I always break down birds with a, well, this is actually technically a short utility knife, but you can use a paring knife. And this is technically just honing, not sharpening. And you only need to do it like 8 times.
What's the difference between honing? Can you do that a little slower?
So honing, which you do at about a 15-degree angle, depending on your type of steel. This is a ceramic steel, and this is a Japanese knife. It's made out of cobalt, so it's a little bit more brittle than, like, let's say, a VG steel or composite like molybdenum, vanadium. But honing is, instead of sharpening where you shave away the steel, you're actually bringing the frayed tip back together to where it's just as sharp as it was previously. Maybe not as sharp as when you sharpened it, but Close enough. So we're going to start with the wings because I usually just throw these in a freezer bag and save them for later when I have enough of them. You start right here where the joint is, and you just slice that skin. You grab it by the body and by the wing and just invert it. Slice right between those two joints and have your wing. Flip it around, do the same thing. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to figure that out, but...
Yeah, let's take a second for questions.
Yeah, let's take a second. So that was the wings. And you can, if you like just this part, you can do the same thing on this joint. All the joints are pretty much the same. So they're going to come off pretty easily. It just depends on where on the body. Is there any questions, Kendall? Or are we good?
No questions right now?
All right.
That means everyone's in good shape.
So I normally go from wings to thighs. And thighs are, the drum and the thigh. So you start with this loose piece of skin where it's attached, where the thigh is attached to the carcass. And you just cut the skin. And you can just keep cutting the skin without having to actually touch the meat. Do the same thing where you grab the body and the thigh at the same time and invert it. You can start at the base down here, slowly, carefully cutting towards yourself, go through the thigh. And there's your thigh. And now there's the oyster in the back. Most people don't know about the oyster, but there's a piece of muscle back here called the oyster. It's the best piece of meat on any chicken or any poultry. Same thing over here. I guess I'm left-handed, so it's a little weird. But you cut through the skin right here. Get your inversion like that. Now this time I'm gonna cut away.
You're not actually breaking the bone.
No, I'm just popping the joint. So all you're doing is popping the joint, and it separates so you can go through it instead of having to chop through bone. So here's that pan. I need that pan. It's right here. Okay, so you have your thighs, and we'll get back to these later because we're gonna separate those a little bit more. You have your wings. If you guys have any questions about the thigh, which is pretty simple, straightforward, you just pop the joint, cut right through, pull the meat right off, and you can actually, and maybe in another video I'll show you how to completely take all the bones out and leave the bird whole. That'll be a fun one. The breast is one that most people are worried about ruining because you're basically following the breastbone as your guide. And so I usually start about halfway. I find the breastbone, I get my knife in right on the side of it, and I just follow it all the way down, flip it around, just like that. Now you can see the breastbone. There's a little bit of meat right here because I'm a little bit sloppy, but...
Request to go a little slower.
Oh, a little bit slower. All right. Let's completely stop. All right, so the breast has the tender right on the inside of it. So like you think of a beef brisket, it's going to be the muscle right on the underside of the breast. Same thing with the chicken tenders. If you want to get a little bit closer, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Like right here. So this is where the breastbone is right here. You're going to kind of get your fingers under there because you got down to the base where the carcass is. And if you follow that piece of soft bone, you can get right up in there. So that's the whole breast. Kind of just follow the carcass without chopping into the meat. And then there's another joint right here. That's actually your drumette on the other side. Drumette. That's the little drum on the wing, So you could technically remove the drumette and the wing together, but I like to leave them on the breast so it's more presentable, like that. And so there's your breast with your drumette. And then we're going to come to the next one. Remember,
what happens if we don't get this cut up exactly like you do?
Well, it's practice, I started...
Fry it and eat it?
Absolutely. It's all going to be fried chicken anyway, so don't worry about if you mess up, because you're just going to eat it all the same anyways. It's all going to be covered in batter and crispy and delicious.
Once we're done, what's left over? What are we not eating?
Well, we usually don't eat the carcass unless
What's the carcass?
The carcass is it's the skeleton on the inside. That's there is some value in the carcass. A lot of people just throw it away, but I like to make stock, or I'll scrape off the meat and use it for like ground chicken, whatever. You can make burgers or whatever tickles your fancy, I guess.
You can make burgers.
Yeah, chicken burgers. Now, with things like breast meat or lighter meat, you want to mix something in so it doesn't cook it so fast because it's gonna really not be that great. But yeah, there's multiple uses for the carcass. I make a lot of stock because stock is the base for so many things like soup and sauces and curries and all sorts of stuff. So I'm doing the same exact thing that I did on the other side, except this time you have less to grab onto, so you have to be a little more careful. And you notice I'm not wearing gloves, and that's mostly because I feel like they're a waste of plastic and you can just wash your hands. So as long as you don't cut yourself, you won't have any raw meat in you. Just be very careful with your knife because they should be sharp. So the same thing, you're just following that really thin piece of bone right here. You can see it right here. This is the back end of it right here. This is a little piece of bone right here. Just use that as your guide and just slice along it. Same thing all the way down. Right there. And then there's your joint. Remove it right there. A little bit of skin hanging on. There's your carcass. You can see there's a little bit of meat on there. If you want, you can just pull off that oyster. I didn't do it very well, but those are delicious.
So what's the benefit of buying a whole chicken versus just buying packaged?
I'd say economical value, especially when you get it on sale like I did, like 99 cents a pound. That's fabulous. Like, it's so cheap, and especially when you're getting a higher quality bird. As well as you have so many options for what kind of meat you want to use. You can get stuff out of the carcass even. You break down enough birds, you have a big old bag of wings in your freezer. Why not, right? So we're going to take this breast, because it has the drumette, flip it over. This is, like I said before, this is the chicken tender. They literally just, well, sometimes they peel right off, but sometimes you just have to give it a little bit of assistance. And that's your chicken tender. We'll come back to this later, because there's a sinew in here, and we'll have to remove that. We have to finish the breast first. So there's the drumette. There's a little bit of bone right here. You can see that. If you look at the other side, you don't want to cut through the drumette itself, but you can just carve around the drumette, and you have yourself right there. There's your breast. There's your drumettes. I'm going to do the same thing on the other breast. Just remove the tendon. Sometimes they need an assist. Sometimes they come right off. It depends on the bird. Most of the time, you give it a little bit of a nip. There's your drumette. And we got two breasts. Make these a little more organized. Breast there, tendon, drumette, wing, carcass. All right, so this is your thigh and drumstick, right? This is where it gets a little more technical. We're gonna pull the bone out of this thigh and separate it from the drumstick. What's that?
We're getting some direction.
Oh, nice. That's always fun. So the drumstick is attached just like the rest of the joints are. There's a joint right here. It's a little bit harder to find though. So what you can do is, because we're gonna remove this bone anyways, you can even use the back of your knife, but I'm gonna use the front of it, but you can use your knife if you want to get a little bit closer. See the bone? You're gonna scrape the bone with your knife and follow it up to the joint. And you can clean it up a little bit if you want to, because it's gonna come out. Normally, if I'm leaving the drumstick on, I'll do one just for a demonstration, but I will follow the joint and the bone all the way to the end of the drumstick, like that, because we're gonna make fried chicken, so it doesn't matter what this looks like.
Yeah, this is all gonna be cut up to small pieces, right?
Absolutely.
So it doesn't have to be super pretty.
Exactly. So this is the more complicated way to do it. You can do the other way. I'll show you in a second, but you cut it down like that and just one more time.
So break the back of the knife.
Yes, as kind of like a little hammer. There's that.
That's jarring.
It's jarring. And then you take your knife and kind of scrape the bone a little bit more, get it underneath there, without stabbing yourself, because that would suck. At this point, you're just kind of cutting around it. And you don't, like I said, you don't have to do it this way. I'm going to show you the other way, and I'll give you time to do it, and I'll talk about some stuff here as we're setting up for the next stage. This isn't the prettiest, but you get the drum and the thigh, just like that. That was not the prettiest. The other way to do this, which is a little more simple, you can feel where the bone is. The joint's right there, so I can feel the joint right here. Like you can feel the separation because they're kind of like this. You like it like that. You kind of right there, and you just
I just cut in between the two
It
ones.
comes right off.
Oh, that's a lot easier.
Yeah, a lot easier. If you're doing the way I did the first way, it's usually for something very specific, but it's a way to get it done. So you have a big old piece of meat that you can maybe roll it around something or something like that. I like to completely debone birds whole and then stuff them with a bunch of stuff and then twine them shut and then roast them in the oven. It's really good. Old school French stuff. There's a bone. That's just a straight up thigh and a straight up drumstick. That's a lot of excess skin. Oh my goodness. All right, so while we're waiting for people to catch up, you guys let me know when you're caught up. Let's talk about green beans. Green beans are not in season right now. They are actually a summer vegetable, if you didn't know. But it's something that I love to do for Christmas time. I did this version of green beans last year for Christmas, and you'll see why it's kind of like a, I don't want to call it a showstopper, but it's kind of like a whoa kind of side dish, right? Green beans are probably one of the best things you can grow in your garden if you have a garden, which I have a garden. I have garden and chickens and all that stuff because that's what us food nerds do. We try to get the freshest stuff possible. I'm going to remove this board, and we're going to go to another board so we can get started on other stuff. Alex, you wanna wash some stuff?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sous chef. Is that the technical term?
Oh, you know what? I just realized I forgot to cut these into bite-sized pieces because we're going to want to do that.
Yeah.
So, being on camera makes me a little hungry, I guess you could say. We're going to fix that. You don't have to wash your knife like this. This is just how I wash my knife. So the good thing is that I know exactly what was on this board. So I like to take some breast, some thigh. I don't really care for tenders, so I'm not gonna get into that. We'll use all the thigh, and I usually remove the skin too. You can fry up the skin, but when you're doing something like fried chicken, you get like a loose piece of skin under a batter. It's kind of chewy and not as pleasant as like crispy and moist. If that makes any sense. So, and some people just don't like skin on their meat. So, I like skin, but I like skin fried up. So when I slice my chicken in bite-sized pieces, you want to think about the width of your mouth, like this. You want to think about what's going to fit in there and how much you're going to struggle getting in there. I'm not going to put this in my mouth. If that's what you're thinking, Kendall. But when you're slicing it, you want to think about how thick it is, and you want to think about how wide it is when you're going to eat it. And also, when you're thinking about the thickness, you want to think about how fast it's going to cook in the oil. So we're going to have a wet batter on top of this, plus this meat. Now, granted, breast is going to cook really quickly, so it's not a problem. But the thigh, specifically, let's say, there's a big piece in here. Right here, this thick guy, you want to like butterfly that in half.
So you're like, can you talk through that a little bit? You're cutting
So
at an angle.
so when you're butterflying something, flat hand on the meat, and you go straight through the middle, just like that. Now I didn't have the butterfly one, but I did.
And you're not cutting it all the way. You're just cutting it most of the way and then opening it up. Like
Yeah, that would be a butterfly. This I'm just cutting into bite-sized pieces, so it doesn't really matter. You can do bigger pieces. Like this is thin, so that's going to be fine. There's a little bit of skin on that, and we'll see the difference if you know what I'm saying. So there's that. And I'm slicing at an angle because it gives me a thinner profile.
Can you hold up one of those again, just to show off the size?
So it's about bite size. It's a little bit bigger. Maybe I should. That's fine. It's almost perfect. But you also want it to be just thin enough to where it's going to fry in like 2 to 3 minutes, like maybe 5 minutes maximum. So when I'm cutting with my hand flat on the meat, and I'm slicing at an angle, which you see right there, opened it up a little bit and made it a little bit easier. This is how, actually this is very similar to how you cut sushi. But when I'm making small bites of things, I want to make it as simple as possible. So yeah, you could chop through it like this. Like you can cut this in half, and you could do the division technique and just divide it into smaller pieces and get choppy with it. But whatever you feel comfortable doing, do it, because either way, it's going to be good. I'm hungry.
Me too.
No, like I'm really hungry.
I've been thinking about fried chicken all day.
Like I only ate breakfast today. I didn't have any lunch. So now the breast is normally when I almost always butterfly because they're fat boys right here. Look at that. What's a butterfly? We just explained butterfly.
Oh, sorry, I was concentrating on the.
Kendall wasn't paying attention.
It's okay.
But let's get in close.
That's nice and butterfly. I think I'm gonna go a little bit thinner, so I'm gonna cut this piece off. Actually, that'll be easy. I'm gonna go a little bit thinner.
Oh, that's the horizontal cut.
Yeah, makes it thinner. So you could pound that out and make, a chicken schnitzel. You can do all sorts of stuff with that. You could cover it in egg and panko breadcrumbs and chicken katsu right there. You know what I'm saying? The wonderful thing about living in Seattle and cooking in Seattle is the diverse flavors that go on in Seattle. If you look at the history of Washington and the kinds of people that have lived here throughout the history of the place, we started obviously with Native Americans and their cuisine, and then we moved into Scandinavian and then Japanese and Filipino. And if you look at the restaurant scene in Seattle, you see a lot of that reflected. Even in Canlis, which, in its history, during the Japanese internment camps and during World War II, they still had Japanese women as servers in kimonos because their husbands couldn't be there. It's kind of it was a way of protest, if you think about it, to the internment camps. A little bit of history lesson.
Wow.
I'm hungry. I'm just like I'm like. I mean, I could go a little bit faster, but I don't want to rush you guys. And remember, you can make as much or as little fried chicken as you want. I'm just taking a breast and 2 thighs because there's 4 people here to eat, and I figure we're each gonna eat like half pound of chicken. So why not, right?
We're at
5 people. 5 people. All right. So I'll go a little heftier. And if you need to make more batter, you can add more stuff to your batter and just be gentle when you whisk it in to make it so it's not so glutinous. Nobody wants tough batter. So we're just going to drop this in our batter. Just drop it in there. Grab yourself a spoon. Where is my spoon? Oh, of course. I'm going to have to wash your soap dispenser. We're just gonna make sure that every piece gets a little bit of batter coated onto it, because this is like I wouldn't say pancake batter. It's more like you ever do a beer batter, and it's similar to something like that. It just has different starches in it, so that way it's not as dense. It's more light and airy, which is the baking soda helps with that. It's not a requirement to have that because you're using potato starch. You can also use tapioca starch, which I've used in a pinch. Any kind of starch that makes it crispier and fluffier. Even rice flour in your batter will actually give it a nice crisp. In fact, when I bake bread, I will shape my dough with rice flour because it gives it that nice crunch on the outside, but it's still fluffy on the inside. So we're just gonna set that aside while we work on other stuff. Oh, I need some water. Remember to hydrate. It's important when you're cooking. Especially if you're standing in front of a big oven and a bunch of other equipment and you're sweating like crazy.
Do you want me to clean anything?
If you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a garbage? Oh, you have a garbage. Of course you have a garbage.
Yeah.
I have a garbage. This is just. Remember, people, a clean workstation is an efficient workstation. So it's really important to clean your station after every task. And wash your hands. Multiple times. Not just.
Is there anything we have to worry about with raw chicken touching a bunch of stuff?
Well, as long as you don't get it all over the place, like, as long as, if you get it on the counter, you wipe it down, wipe down your counter. You clean your counter. I mean, yes, there's always risk of bacteria, but as long as you're buying high quality birds, there's much lower risk.
What about cutting boards?
Cutting boards, we're gonna wash it.
We're just gonna wash it. Even though it's a wood cutting board, we'll just wash it and it's fine.
You can sanitize it if you want to. Like I've sanitized boards like this before. You just have to
Just with like a
be careful on what kind of
or something.
what
409
Oh no,
or bleach or
bleach. If you're gonna use bleach, you want to use a really light dilution because it's gonna smell like it for a while.
but soap
And also
water is just fine.
It kind of ruins the finish a little bit if you do it too often. What you can do actually, if you have a wood board like this, you can wash it with soap and water, and then you can take a bunch of salt and put it in a bowl with a little bit of water and just scrub it into it.
Cool.
And all that salt, it's a curing agent. Salt is a curing agent. That's how you make things like charcuterie. It'll kill any bacteria that's on there. It's kind of cool.
That is cool.
No, it's not.
I like that.
No, it's not like approved by like the health department, but that's how they used to do it. Take care of their wood boards. You can also oil your boards, which will preserve their life. But I'm just gonna switch to a different bowl or a different board.
Then I'll wash this.
Yeah, sure, you can do that. I'll switch to the board. Get this over here. Where do you want me to put this? I'll just put this over here. All right, so next thing we need to work on is our gochujang sauce, but at the same time, I want to get some water boiling so we can blanch our green beans. So we're gonna make our sauce, pick our beans, because if you watch water, it won't boil. It's true. Alright, so you got all your green beans, get your stuff for your sauce put over here. We're just gonna pick some green beans now these aren't the best green beans, like I said, they're not in season, so you have little brown spots like they're starting to age.
Did you already say what green bean season is?
Yeah, summertime.
Summertime.
If you grow corn beans and squash together, they grow really, really well together. That is not a pretty green bean. We're gonna go for the pretty ones because you gotta look at it. But if you have ones that are brown at home, it's okay to have a little bit of brown. If they're a little bit black like that, you want to pop that right off. So I'm just going for on every green bean. There's the part where it's connected to the plant. You just pull that off because it's tough and not very tasty. And texturally not pleasing. It's all right. Not the worst. So, when I was in the Philippines, I had a small little catering business selling American smoked barbecue. The funny thing about it is when I first introduced it to people over there, they're like, okay, how much for 10 sticks? Now, if you know anything about the Filipino barbecue, they do all their barbecue as skewers on little charcoal grills. So they didn't understand. And I'm like, sticks? What do you mean sticks? It's by the pound. Nevertheless, they really enjoyed it, and we didn't continue it mainly because overhead, but that's restaurant life for you.
How long did you do that for?
That was a good 9-month stint,
Nice.
Just making barbecue and deep fried mac and cheese, pulled pork lumpia. Cornbread was a cornbread bubinka, which is bubinka is a bread made with coconut milk and baked in a banana leaf, but I mixed it with a cornbread recipe. Made candied Thai chili honey butter.
That sounds amazing.
It's pretty fancy. Actually, it wasn't that difficult. It's just honey and butter. Mix that together, nice and whipped together, and then you take some Thai chilies and you slice them really thin. You throw them in a little bit of simple syrup in a pan until they kind of candy a little bit. When it starts to change a little bit of color, you dry them on a piece of parchment, and then once they're all individually broken up and not clumped together, because you got to break them up, you mix that into your honey butter and spread that on your cornbread bubinka. It's pretty good.
That's great. How long have you been doing this?
12 years.
12 years.
Well, I mean, I think it all started when I was a kid. My mom was working full time, going to school full time, battling cancer full time, and she did it all by herself with 4 kids. So being the oldest, it's kind of your responsibility to help out, and so I learned how to cook and feed my siblings, and I just kind of got hooked. You know, it's an enjoyable thing. You get to feed people, you get to fellowship with them, you get to hang out and eat good food. There's actually a really good book I'd recommend if you want to look into fellowship and food. It's called A Meal with Jesus. In fact, I just loaned a copy to Pastor Jared. Hi, Pastor Jared. Where are you? But it's really good. It's a short book. It's a good read. You know, it's all about the different times where people, where he would sit down with people and eat with them, and the significance that it had. It's kind of neat. Oh wow, it's boiling faster than I thought because we're not watching it.
Because we're not watching it.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay because.
Sous chef.
I'm not doing my job.
Do you know what chef means?
No.
It means chief.
Chief.
Yeah, it means person in charge, basically.
Yeah.
And in fact, most of the time, executive chefs don't do a lot of cooking. They do a lot of managing.
Direct.
Actually, that's the chef de cuisine's job. And then the sous chef, meaning under chef, means basically you're the go-to guy between the line cooks and the chef.
Oh.
So he's like the cheerleader for the team. Come on, guys, you can do it. We can push through this. You know.
Come on, guys, we can do this.
But he's also kind of the guy who's overworked because you're working 65-hour days or weeks, not days. That would be a little much. 120 hours a day. I don't know how fast you're picking these.
You're only picking one side.
Yeah, you're only picking the stem side. You're only in fact, there are some green bean varieties where you actually have to pull the whole thing off.
Oh yeah.
But that's when they're a little bit older and tougher. These are a little bit younger, which is kind of what you want, more French style green beans.
Yeah.
I'm getting thirsty again.
Do you want a beverage?
I would like a beverage, and I also would like a bowl with a bunch of ice and a little bit of water.
I'm on it.
It's kind of nice to have someone helping you out.
What bowl? Can I use this bowl?
Um.
Or should I get
Yeah,
my
we
bowl?
can use that. Oh, no, let's use a different bowl because that's going to be our sauce bowl.
What's the bowl
For
for?
shocking. So shocking.
Shocking.
When you cook green beans, actually, one of my preferred ways to cook green beans is to blanch them and then you finish them in something. And that's the way a lot of restaurants do it. Is they end up blanching your green beans so they're partially cooked. That's so loud. My ears.
That was loud.
That was awesome. I love that. That's great. I should have brought more bowls. Be sure you have enough bowls. It's very important. So I'm not looking at the camera, am I? I'm looking at the food. Well, it's normal because when I'm cooking in a restaurant, I'm just looking down the whole time. Just set it next to right over here.
Is this enough ice?
That's plenty. You want a little bit of water.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna try it on.
just like that. Just like that. So I'm just about done here.
Here's some ice. I have boiling water.
So when you're blanching something, blanching is a form of par cooking. You're just cooking the exterior of the whatever you're cooking. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to drop it in the hot boiling water and it's going to cook just the outside and it's going to preserve the green color so it won't get gross looking. But before we do that, there we go. We want to season our water. So you want to season at every level when you're cooking. Cooking is a lot about layering flavors. You want it to taste like seawater, basically. I don't recommend doing this, but I'm going to do yeah, that works.
That doesn't seem safe.
I eat things out of a sizzling hot pan, not a regular, so just use a spoon. In fact, there was a spoon right here. I totally could have used that. Do as I say, not as I do. I would make a great dad. Alright, so, got our green beans. You don't want to do all of them at the same time because, the temperature will drop too quickly. So you do about half. You count to like 30 seconds. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You could go up to, you could go 20 seconds, but this water stopped boiling. Like I said, don't do it all at once. Basically, you want to get it to where you can even just try them and see where they're at. If they feel cooked on the outside, but snapping on the inside. That was perfect. Pull them out. Drop them in your ice water. It stops the cook. You're shocking your green beans. Probably needs a little more water in there though. Okay. Get that over there. A little more water in there. We're gonna have our green beans. That was a good green bean. Grab the roasted green bean. Oh, I missed one. That's a good green bean. You should eat one of those. Those are really good. Even though they're not the prettiest. I'm just gonna count in my head, so bear with me.
Oh, that's tasty.
It's got that snap still, but it feels it's cooked.
That's not what my green beans usually taste like.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna do it like that now.
You should.
It's good.
And then we're gonna finish them later, and your mind's gonna be blown. And you're gonna be like, what? So a little bit longer. If you want to grab the camera, you can visually see them getting brighter. I mean, it's a little bit late now because they're already bright, but they start out like a little darker of a hue, and then they kind of open up a little bit in color. Leave them in there too long, not as pretty. 15 to 30 seconds is usually the right amount of time. Depends on how hot your water is. Obviously, I don't have a lot of water in my pot, so I'm gonna just go with that. Let this sit. You can kill that. Dump out our water because we're going to use this later for frying. Give it a rinse. Ouch. Don't burn yourself. It's not recommended. Alright, like I said before, important to clean up your workstation. Always clean as you go. If you need me to slow down, say something. I can give you a moment as I clean up and move on to the next thing. Alright, so next thing we're doing, if you're ready for it, which I'm not sure if you are. Are you ready, Alex?
We're going to pause just a second.
Alright. That's fine.
We're having some technical, not difficulties, but full memory cards. We have to swap them out.
Oh my goodness. So I'm just getting my ingredients together for the next stage, which is going to be our gochujang sauce. At the same time,
Okay, I've had a few questions about the gochujang.
gochujang.
So
This is a Korean red chili paste. It's used for making kimchi and all sorts of different sides. I use it on a regular, as well as things like miso paste and all sorts of goodies. You can actually find this at pretty much most grocery stores. Safeway is going to be a little bit harder, but I find it online at Safeway. So if that's the closest grocery store to, they probably have it, unless they're sold out. I've even found it in a squeeze bottle. It's not that spicy, even though it's kind of an aggressive red color. You look at it really closely, it's kind of intimidating, but in reality, it's just a really nice pepper flavor. It is a little bit spicy. It's like a 1 or 2 out of 5. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take some cloves of garlic. Pretty sure, yeah, garlic. I'm just gonna grab 2 cloves.
So you have one giant thing of garlic, one giant thing of ginger.
I'm not gonna use all this ginger. This is an insane amount of ginger.
Okay.
I'm just bringing this over because I need to grate mine. I put minced or grated on there, and I prefer to do mine fresh.
And you told me a good trick that you froze your ginger.
Oh, that's just because I buy a lot of ginger at once. I use ginger all the time.
So it preserves it, but it also makes it easy to grate.
It's easier if it's frozen. Yes, this has been defrosted for like an hour, which is unfortunate because now it's a little soft. But if you want to have a lot of ginger in your on standby for whenever you need it, throwing in the freezer is a great way. You can actually peel it while it's frozen. And I usually use a spoon. This is actually a Korean bibimbap spoon. But it's actually more effective than a peeler, especially if it's soft. Like that. Yeah, it's kind of just ripping apart, but that's what happens when you take it out of the freezer for too long. You probably have fresh ginger, and if you don't, it's okay.
Smells really good.
Don eats the stuff on the regular. Not raw, but he eats the candied stuff. Now my hands are going to reek of it.
Not a bad problem.
I mean, it's not as bad as garlic, I'll give you that much. I'm going to grab my microplane. You guys might have already gotten minced or grated garlic or ginger. You don't need a lot. In fact, I should just do this directly into the bowl. It's a little bit easier. I'm only looking for a tablespoon. Ginger can be a little overwhelming if you have too much of it. This is just a microplane, which is just like it's a grater for things like cheeses and spices and such things like that. They don't last forever, but they last quite a long time. It's a little hard to hold it on there. All right. I'll go a little more. Man, I smell like ginger. All right.
So you did a piece like that big, right?
Yeah.
Just a nice little size.
About that. Yeah, you can go about that. I mean, you're not going to get all of it grated into it, and there's obviously some skin on there. But you're only looking for about a tablespoon. That's a little more than a tablespoon. That's fine. We're going to clean that up. I like to clean up.
Clean as you go.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, sauce. Ugh. All right, next, garlic. You can crush it. You can do the twist method, which is my preferred method. It's hard to do on short pieces, but you can kind of give it a little wiggle. And the skin usually pops off. And if it starts to get sticky, just run your fingers under some water. It'll remove the oils from the garlic. I used to have to peel a quart of garlic in 20 to 30 minutes.
Quart of garlic.
A quart of garlic, because we didn't
lot.
buy peeled garlic.
Yeah.
It's fresher if you do it yourself. See how fast that was? It's not super difficult. I like a lot of garlic, but this is going to be a sauce, so we're not going to use too much garlic. I'm going to use 2 cloves. We'll go back into the garlic later, because we're going to use a lot of it. I kind of wish I brought my elephant garlic. Put this. Elephant garlic?
Elephant garlic. Can you buy that at the store?
You can buy that. They have it at QFC.
Oh. How big is it?
1 clove is about yay big.
That's huge.
It's not as strong as regular garlic. Now normally I like to let my garlic sit because there's I think it's an enzyme or something. It's called allicin, and when it's released, it's actually the thing in garlic that's really good for you. But I'm just gonna grate it because I'm hungry. Like, I think my blood sugar's dropping. Oh yeah, that'll help.
Do you want a chip?
Yes. You don't have to feed me though. It's okay.
We have snacks over here, so.
Oh, that smells good. You ever do the classic? What's that smell? That smell. It smells so good. Combo, just garlic and onions.
Oh,
You know? Yeah.
In butter.
So there's about that much in there. I put my microplane in the sink. Clean out my workstation a little bit better because that was lazy. All right. And just to save a little bit of time, let's put our pot on the stove. We're gonna heat it on medium so that way we're ready for when we're ready to go. No, let's Let's hold off for a second. I'm gonna hold off for a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. I think it's because I need to eat something. Okay. That's probably not a good spot for it. All right, so.
Okay, so let's show again how much we have here.
You can go more or less.
This is 2 cloves of garlic.
It depends on how spicy you want it, because
okay. So we can adjust.
you can adjust to taste. Like this is just how I like it. I don't like a ton of ginger in mine because it tends to be a little overwhelming flavor.
Yeah.
You want to hit the chicken. You know what I mean? Chicken's kind of a not so strong meat, anyways. Now I put I think what was it, a third of a cup of gochujang. I'm just gonna eyeball mine. A little eyeball. It's probably about a third cup. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. It's probably closer to a quarter cup, but we'll live with it. I also have some butter that's been on the stove softening. I'm just gonna put this over here. Now, believe it or not, you don't have to measure every single ingredient unless you're baking. That's when it becomes a real science. Now, this is technically chemistry, what we're doing when we're cooking, but I'm not too worried about it. As long as you have a varying understanding of.
You're using like a third of that stick.
We could probably use a little bit more, but I usually start to add it in as I go when I start to mix it in, because I don't want it to be too much fat, otherwise it'll separate. So when you're making this, you're technically making emulsification. So I'm going to add vinegar as our fluid. You're usually mixing oil and water. I think I put 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar in here. This is an aged rice vinegar. It's not even open.
It's not open.
Yeah, there it is. All right, 2 tablespoons. And a little more. I like vinegar. I make vinegar. It's delicious. And we're just going to mix this. And I think salt and pepper too was the other thing. Little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. And I always prefer fresh crack. And all we're going to do is we're going to let this do a light mixing. We're not going to full on mix this yet because we're going to put the hot chicken in here when it's ready. And it's going to melt all this together as you're tossing it. But once you get it all mixed together, it's going to be pretty quick. You just don't want a big chunk of ginger or garlic in one pocket of your mouth. So you got to get a little bit of a mix. And we can set that aside, add more butter later if we need to. Okay.
We have a question. I don't know if there's an answer to it.
Sure.
How did you get your water to boil so fast?
The question is, how did you get your water to boil so fast?
This isn't my kitchen. If this was my kitchen, it would have taken much longer. That is a great question, though. Oh my god! All right, so now we're gonna work on garlic, and it's gonna take a while because we're gonna do 3 heads of garlic. Now you can go a little bit less, but this dish is
a lot of garlic.
This green bean dish is known for when people say, "Hey, do you want some green beans with your fried garlic?" It's basically a mound of sliced and fried garlic. So we're gonna break them all apart. You can just grab the bottom of them first. I just peel off the outer layers.
I feel like
you
I
want
should
to help
be
out?
helping,
Yeah,
but
help out.
Then people
Come
aren't
on.
gonna catch up. So I'll probably just go over here for a minute.
You peel off the outer layers. Get the paper away. Start peeling. Or you could just flip it upside down like this, and like that, and it comes apart. It's definitely faster. You'll learn little tricks that go ever so faster every time you do it differently. I'll cover that up. I don't want garlic in there. Clean workstation. Very important. You have no idea. This is going to be crazy and delicious. Now, sometimes I'll do the French method where you poach it in milk, but because we're doing Korean, I'm just going to skip it. Yes, poaching garlic in milk is the thing. It removes the bitter compounds. But because we're trying to do a more Korean fried chicken dish, we're not going to do that. Also, that's like another step that's just going to take more time, and I'm hungry, so that's just... In fact, I'm going to... You can actually get the skin off another way really fast just by tapping your garlic. It crushes it a little bit, but we're going to... Well, you don't want to crush it too much. Yeah, try not to crush it too much, because we're going to try to slice these. In fact, I'm gonna skip that. It's okay because you can always save that for later. There's a lot of garlic. I'm trying to come up with ways where you guys can go at least as fast as I'm trying to go slowly, because I don't want to make this difficult. So, ooh, throw away any bad garlic. There's always one. So the twist is probably going to be your best bet. Just give it a little wiggle and the skin comes off. It still breaks sometimes. If you have a green germ, which is the piece in the middle that it germinates from, so you know.
Let's look at this.
Hold on, let me slice it in the middle. You can't really see it because there's no green one in that one, but there's always a germ that grows right in the middle of your garlic. You've probably seen it before, but like the tip right here, that's part of the germ. I didn't even put it right in the middle. There it is. So this little spot right here, which it's not on this side, but you can see the little spot where the germ is growing. I think that's the bottom part of it. If it's green, you want to remove it because it's going to be bitter. So we're going to move these aside.
That usually happens when like the garlic's been sitting too long, right?
Exactly. It wants to grow. At that point, you can just put it in your garden and grow another crop for next year. You can help you.
Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah, get your kids to help you. It'll make it easier. They'll probably be like, why? But if you don't have any kids, then I wouldn't ask your dog. My dog doesn't like garlic. In fact, they shouldn't eat garlic.
Is that poisonous for dogs?
I think so. I think garlic and onions, yeah. The allium family. This is part of the allium family.
What else is part of the allium family?
Onions, garlic, scallions, shallots. Yeah, anything that's basically considered a kind of onion. Leeks. Leeks is a good one. I love leeks. Potato leek soup. That's fantastic. Have you ever had potato leek soup?
I have. I like that.
Old school.
That's a good comfort food.
Or like French onion soup.
Oh yeah.
Like with the Gruyere on top.
I've made it once.
Can you do the wiggle? You grab each side like that and just wiggle, 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 wiggle. Yeah. I hope somebody got that reference. It takes some practice, but you grab like this, like you're gripping it, and you just until it starts to. Sometimes you got to give it a bit more pressure.
Oh yeah, there we go.
It comes off pretty fairly. It's probably the fastest way you can peel garlic. See, this one's kind of green at the tip. I'm going to put that aside. Every time you see that. I know this isn't an insane amount of garlic, but trust me, it's going to be great. If you don't want to eat this much garlic, I completely understand.
Now people, let's see, we're cooking for 5.
Yeah.
If you're cooking for 2?
Yeah, you could use a head instead of 3. That's acceptable. It is head of garlic, and then clove is one piece. Some people get them mixed up. I'm just making sure you know the difference. What's great is if you really like a certain kind of garlic from a place that you buy it, if you want to, usually as long as it's organic, you can actually plant it.
Oh no, that is cool.
Yeah.
How? Just one of these? Or the
Yeah,
whole thing?
as long as you have they call it the butt of the garlic.
Yeah.
Sticking down, and it's only about like a half inch of soil on top of it.
And then you just water it.
Just make sure it's not too wet, not too dry.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Someone in the comments left a quote by Anthony Bourdain. Too lazy to peel, you don't deserve to eat garlic.
Thank you. Yes.
I like that.
If you haven't read No Reservations, beware. It's very real life. In fact, I think every cook or chef has read that book. It's pretty much standard in the industry because it depicts the life of someone doing this stuff for a living. And normally you're trying to push really, really fast, like get everything done in the shortest amount of time possible because you're trying to do so many different things at once, and you're usually cooking more than one thing at once. And if you only have one thing going, then you're probably not doing it right. But for the sake of people who don't want to be professional chefs, let's take it down a notch. You ever just eat a clove of garlic?
I have not done that.
It's really good for you, but it kind of hurts.
I feel like your breath would stink.
No, it's your gut, because if you eat it on an empty stomach, it's just gonna hurt. Like when you take vitamins or like medicine on an empty stomach, same thing.
Yeah.
So that's the green one. What did you guys eat yesterday?
Yesterday.
Mm-hmm. What was your dinner last night?
Did we have tacos last night? No, we had Thai food last night.
Thai food. Where did you get your Thai food?
There's a place by us down the road called Thai Manna.
Thai Manna. Do you know what style of Thai food it is?
I don't.
Hmm.
I didn't know that there were styles.
Of course, it's a country with regions, so they have regional cuisines.
That's true.
Hmm.
So what is pad thai? We usually do pad thai and a curry.
Pad thai is pretty basic central Thailand. You see it all over Thailand. It's like one of the most common street foods.
I've always wondered if it was actually in Thailand or just an American.
No, it's Thai food.
Okay.
It's usually not as sweet as it is here.
Yeah.
It's usually a little bit spicy. Not as spicy as other dishes, but almost everything in Thailand when it comes to street food is going to be spicy.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember when I was there and they said, "Do you want spicy or Thai spicy?" Those are the only options, unless you're eating ice cream. Although I've had
spicy ice cream.
I've had spicy ice cream here. I didn't have spicy ice cream there. But they do sell ice cream on a burger bun.
Ice cream on a burger bun?
Yeah, or a hot dog bun, depending on what they have. So
it's kind of like putting ice cream on top of a cookie.
It's an ice cream sandwich. It's just, what they can get. Look at all that.
Wow, that's impressive.
Great for your compost pile.
Yeah.
Or bin.
For the city's compost pile.
I guess we could take this all to my house, but I have a big 3-compartment bin system.
Do you have a farm at your house? Are you farming?
I'm growing stuff for myself.
Not right now. What are you growing right
now? Nothing but birds. Oh, and I have my lemon verbena and a bunch of herbs that are always growing because they never go away.
Yeah.
But it's winter. It's hard to grow stuff in the winter without like greenhouses and grow covers and things like that. I mean, I have all that stuff, but I didn't set it up this year. But I did just get some greenhouse plastic, so that'll be fun.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah. I'm thinking throw the birds in there and throw a bunch of straw down and let them go there until about January, February, or like end of January, end of February kind of time. And then get it ready for March and get all my seeds going inside. Okay, now next comes the difficult part for some people because we're going to use the mandolin. If you don't have a mandolin, you're going to have to follow along with a knife.
Can we do a knife first and then move on to a mandolin?
Sure. So we can start with probably one of the most important techniques to learn when you're using a knife. If you're not holding your knife the way I'm holding it, you're going to learn a little bit something about how I hold a knife. A lot of people I've seen, especially even my mother, hold their knife with their finger on here. Now this is I'm going to use an analogy, and not everybody will get it. If you've ever skateboarded before, you know if you push from the back, you have more power but less control. If you push from the front, you have more control but less power. Same thing goes if you have your finger up here, you have more power but you have less control. If you hold from here, you have more control but you have a little bit less power. It's almost the same actually. This is just a more preferred method because you have more control of your knife. It's an extension of your arm. So
do you mix it up depending on what you're cutting? I
always hold it the same way. And I'm always gripping the blade as well as the handle because that way I can feel what the blade is doing instead of holding it back here where it's all just reverberation. Does it make sense? This is a composite steel, so it's going to be a little more, I can feel things more. Does it make sense? If you don't have fancy knife, it's okay. Just to make sure your knife is sharp and that you are comfortable with it. So you cut off the butts always. When I use the mandolin, I'm not going to worry about that because I'm just going to throw them as I go. But when you're cutting something, especially something small, always tuck your fingers and your thumb right behind your fingertips. And you use the flat of your finger as your guide as you move backwards. And you can go paper thin if you get good enough at it. It's a little bit hard to be consistent, which is why I use the mandolin, because you can go way faster. But the more you practice this technique of tucking your fingers and your thumb behind, you'll almost never cut yourself. In fact, the only times I cut myself is on random things like plastic roll teeth for cutting the plastic. we have a little bowl I can put all the sliced garlic in?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to switch over to the mandolin. Now, it has a guard, but I don't normally use it. But for your sake, maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. You can also use your knife as a scooper. I'm going to adjust it until I find where I want my garlic. There's a little adjuster on the back. If yours has one, then that's great. If it doesn't, it also has attachments for teeth. We can make fries one of these days. So that'll be fun. You just give it a couple whacks. A little bit too thick for me. A little bit thinner. That's pretty nice. I think I'm going to stick with that. Now I will keep pushing down as you're slicing the garlic. So you want to make sure you adjust it every once in a while. So I'm just going to go a little bit faster. And like I said, if you don't want to use 3 heads of garlic, it's completely understandable. Once you get closer to your fingers, it gets a little sketchy because you can slice yourself. I actually, on my stage for when I worked at Lark here in Seattle, I sliced myself on a mandolin because it was a brand new one and I hadn't used it yet. So I was a little shaky, if you know what I mean. Because they are dangerous. You know, these things are sharp. They can hurt you. You notice I'm tapping every once in a while, and that's because there's so much oil and garlic that it sticks to things. Good oil. You know, good stuff.
Do you ever sharpen your mandolin like you do your knives?
I haven't. You can, I think, but I don't know if this model. Yeah, you can take out the blade. You can take out the blade. You can clean it. You can sharpen it. I've never sharpened this one because I haven't had to yet. But every once in a while, it probably wouldn't hurt. And when you sharpen, it's better if you use stones, not those things you drag your knife through. Now, there are some decent ones, but for the most part, stones are preferred, with chefs especially. You can take it to a professional, and they'll sharpen it on a wheel for you, for your knives. I've done that a handful of times over the years. In fact, one of the places is where I got my ceramic honing steel, because when you're using specifically Japanese steel, it's a little bit harder than American or German steel, so it tends to hold an edge a lot longer. You'll appreciate the sharpness for a longer period of time. One of the reasons I got the cobalt though is because it's a little bit different of a steel. I can sharpen it much more often, and I can use it for things like getting through bone, which you end up ruining your knives sometimes that way. I've actually tipped this guy twice, but I've had to sharpen it back into place multiple times. Keep going.
Keep going.
Which?
Through the garlic.
Oh yeah, I told you there's a lot of garlic.
It is a lot of garlic. I think most people are probably not using this much garlic.
Do you want?
I don't know. Are you using this much garlic?
You want to be my Sue and put a little oil in the pan and pop it up to about medium, and we'll see where that hits on the thermometer.
That's
Here.
a lot of responsibility.
Okay. All right. All right. So we're gonna go over here for a second because I'm about a third way through my garlic. I'm gonna move this guy out of the way. In fact, let's drain him off because you don't want it just sitting in water. We'll soak up all the water, which is no fun. We're gonna cook him one more time. But first, I use avocado oil. You can use any neutral oil that you like. I'm not a big fan of canola, but that is a different subject. So I'm just gonna add enough in here to where I can get my little strainer out and get it in there to pick up the garlic when it's ready.
Why avocado oil?
It has a high smoke point. It doesn't really have a flavor. It's usually pretty high quality oil versus something like canola or any cheaper oil. Like canola is actually a rapeseed oil, which obviously that's why they call it canola. It doesn't sound so nice.
That's not grapeseed. That's
rapeseed oil
with an R.
Yes, and it's actually it's been used for things like machine oil quite a bit in the past. So
really,
yeah, and most rapeseed oil is not organic. Like there's a couple companies out there that will use it. Like they'll make organic expeller pressed, like first press stuff, or you can even find extra virgin canola, but it's still not the best product. I'm just gonna drop this onto low because we don't want to fry our garlic too hot.
How much oil did you use?
I only put in maybe.
Let's get a close up of how much oil you used.
Probably add a little bit more just to be safe because I'm going to use the same oil when I fry the chicken.
So we're not deep frying.
We're not deep frying. This is a shallow fry.
Shallow fry.
And that's one way to preserve, not waste all your oil. You're not going to have to throw it all the way at the end of the day if you burn something. And it cooks faster because you don't have as much of oil to heat up every time you drop the temperature. that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although there is to note that the more oil, the more residual heat. So it will be hotter with more oil, but you have more control over less oil. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
The variable is
Okay, so we have it at low right now.
between low and 3, and I'm just
We're just letting this sit while we finish up the garlic.
yeah.
though, right?
I'm probably not going to do all this garlic just because it's insane. I don't know. I can speed it up. I just don't want to slice myself.
The Band-Aid's ready.
That's funny. If you feel uncomfortable slicing one all the way down to the bone, I get it. That was a finger joke. And now it's starting to get a little fat, so you adjust right there. It's a lot of work for these green beans, I know, but it's only a couple ingredients, so it's really hard to mess up. I probably should be looking at my fingers, not at the camera. That's not a very pretty one. Man, I could totally go for some tunes right now. I usually slow down when I get to the end of one, just because I've sliced myself on a mandolin at least 3 times in my career ever. That's not bad.
It just takes a nice little slice out of your finger, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It just shaves your finger, you know. Sorry, that's a little cringeworthy. I didn't want to make your flesh twitch. That's uncomfortable. And the reason we're cooking the garlic on low is because it has water in it, and we don't want to we don't want to like hard fry this. We're trying to release the oil and slightly golden brown the garlic, so that way when it's time to put it on top of the green beans, ooh, that was a close one. You put it on top of the green beans, it looks impressive. It'll look like a lot. You gonna eat one?
They're beautiful. They're so thin.
I mean, that's
Can I eat it?
Yeah, well, you can. As long as you've had something to eat today, you'll probably be fine. But on an empty stomach, it's no good. And the cool thing is it's been sitting here for a couple minutes, so it's going to be better for you now than it was a couple minutes ago. Because of the Allison. I remember when I was working in a restaurant in Cleveland, Ohio, and we used so many sliced red onions that I had to use a meat slicer because we just went through them. I would be closing my eyes and slicing red onions on a meat slicer. If anyone's ever heard a horror story about slicing your finger on a meat slicer, it's not pretty. It's bad. I've seen it. It's actually pretty uncommon. Like, it's usually people who don't know what they're doing with the machine, because that's usually the case, but because it has a guard, you know, there usually is a guard on those things. Maybe one of these days we'll do a cured meat class or something. Charcuterie, or we could do like bacon. We could do bacon. Bacon's fun. I don't think everybody has a smoker, but we can do one of those Alton Brown box smokers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you take a cardboard box and make a smoker. So, that's a lot of garlic. Tell me when to stop, guys, because you're going to eat it.
You're the chef?
Kendall's like, yeah, more, please, bring it on. It's a little bit different when you're cooking in front of the people that are going to eat it. You know what I mean? Than when you're in the back of a kitchen, or even in an open kitchen. Open kitchen, it's a little bit different because you really don't want to like be messy or hurt yourself in front of guests. You know, they won't think you're professional.
They don't want blood in there. Really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe a little chicken blood, but no. I really gotta look at my fingers. This is I keep looking up to try to keep going with the conversation, but then I look up and I'm like, oh my gosh, every time I do it.
Don't cut yourself.
I haven't yet, so let's just keep it that way. Like Don always says, the number one rule, don't hurt yourself. If anybody needs to stop and put on a Band-Aid, I understand. What we can do is, by the time I'm done, hopefully you guys are done slicing how much garlic you want, or you feel like it's enough, because it is a lot of garlic. That's a green one. So we'll just go from that point, and if you want to pause the video and slice more garlic, you're welcome to. Notice I'm not using the whole thing. You can save those for later, and you can put them in a stock, or chop them up and fry them up in something else. It's pretty common to not use all of the clove when you're slicing it on a mandolin. They're also a little slippery. Yeah, it's really hard to use the guard when you're slicing garlic because you got to hold it a certain direction. The guard's really good for slicing other things though, like turnips or onions or such. Is this cringeworthy or what?
No, we're just enjoying the comments.
Oh, like what?
Someone learned about twisting garlic for the first time.
Yeah, that's actually I didn't hear about it until I worked in Lark. Actually, I worked for years just peeling it from the butt end, and I finally learned how to do the twist, and it's so much faster. I think I'm gonna call it. I think that's all the garlic I'm gonna slice.
I can feel it in my head.
In your veins, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna put all this garlic in our bowl here. We're gonna check the temperature on that oil. I'm gonna need a little plate with a paper towel on it.
That's my cue.
Heck yeah! That is a lot of garlic. Now, mind you, when I did Christmas, I did 2 or 3 pounds of green beans, and I did 7 heads. It was a little excessive, but it was gorgeous. Yes. So I'm gonna put this over here. Make sure you have your salt handy because when you pull it out, you want to season your garlic. Remember to season at every level because we're layering flavors. We don't have a lot of ingredients, but we want to make sure that when you use them, you're layering the flavors so it pops more when you use it. Now this is a candy fry thermometer. This is the second one I've ever had to purchase. I exploded the first one as I know. We don't want to get higher than 300. We're doing basically a par cook on fried garlic.
So what's it at right now?
It is at 175.
175.
I'm going to crank it up just a hair.
We want it to be at
About
300?
About 250, 275.
250.
You can hit 300, you'll be fine.
How hot can this oil get?
500 degrees.
Okay.
Now there's an oil that actually they sell in Washington State. That's grown in Washington State and in Montana. It's called camelina oil, and it's a flower. And they take the seed from the flower and they press that. It has a very nutty, olive oily kind of combo flavor going on, and it has a smoke point of 475. But it's also a dressing oil, so you can fry in it and you can dress with it. It's kind of fancy.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's got a different flavor, so you kind of got to get used to it. I usually use it for very specific things. I'm talking really fast. I will slow down. I just need to hydrate again. When you're talking a lot, you're dry out your mouth, What's the fork for? I didn't ask.
This is my...
Tasting fork?
Yeah, it's an all-purpose fork.
All right.
Whisking, tasting...
Almost to 225.
Poking.
Poking. What are you poking eyes out with that?
If I need to.
All right. We're just waiting for this oil to heat up now. But what we can do, because we are heating up oil, is we can grab our chicken and get ready for that. Because we're getting close to the cook.
Oh,
we're gonna fry the garlic.
We're getting almost there.
We're gonna fry the garlic. We're gonna put it on this landing plate, and then we're gonna take the green beans. We're going to heat up this pan, put a little bit of your chili oil or Sambal olek, any kind of oily chili product, put it in the pan. You don't want to completely rip it hot, like super, super hot. You want it hot enough to where it's going to coat your green beans. Can you drain these off a little bit more? There might be a little water on the bottom.
What is this again?
So this is my own homemade one. This is a homemade chili oil. It's basically just oil and chilies and garlic fried together. You can use dehydrated chilies if you're making it at home. But I've used fresh chilies. Just have to refrigerate it versus the shelf-stable stuff. If you don't want to make it at home, you can just buy chili oil or buy something like Sambal, which is it's like a chili paste or it's just a lot of chilies and a little bit of oil basically. There's some of them out there that have peanuts in them, so you kind of got to be wary of that. But Other than that, we're gonna have this ready to get all the water out of there.
Yes.
Solid. That is a restaurant word. Solid. Or herd, or wee chef, or hi chef, or Roger. I've heard Roger from a guy I worked with in Hawaii. He's from Hawaii. I didn't work in Hawaii, but I've never been to Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii. Let's go to Hawaii.
Sure.
What's our temperature at now? All right, we're just over 250, so we can start dropping a little bit because like before, you don't want to cook it all at once. The temperature's going to drop. And with the garlic, you want it to be spread out as much as possible, almost each individual piece of garlic, as much as you can. It is, like I said, it is a little bit oily. There's going to be oil in oil, but it's a little bit of water in the garlic, so the water is going to push out, and the avocado oil is going to try to get in, but because it's frying, it won't, so it'll caramelize the outside, giving you a golden brown color. And you do it slowly so that way you get all the water out, versus something like when you're hot frying, where you're just trying to cook it all the way. So when you do it slow, it doesn't get soggy as quickly, because if there's still moisture in there, it's going to get soggy. Spread her out. If you have a wider pan or a wok or something like that, use that. The wider the better. Now, I could have used this, but I'm using
Just
that.
because you can fit more in there?
Exactly. And if the wider you go, the more surface area. It's pretty common. Man, it smells so good. I hope yours smells as good as mine does. I'll probably stop there. I'm going to rinse my fingers off because they're very sticky. Ugh.
That smells amazing.
Doesn't it? And it's going to make your whole house smell like this. I hope you're okay with that.
Probably for days.
Oh wow, this is longer than an hour, I'm sorry. I was hoping for an hour, and if you take into account that you just learned how to break down a chicken, that's pretty cool. And the garlic took a little bit of time, but it's going to be worth it in the end, trust me. And
I trust you.
If you think about the fried chicken as the dish by itself, it's actually a pretty fast dish. Even if you bought just pieces, you cut them into bite-sized pieces, you make your little batter, you heat up your oil, and you fry it. There's your main. If you don't want this much garlic, you could probably just fry whole pieces and smash them, and then sprinkle that through your green beans. That'll be pretty good too. But this is just nicer for presentation. So don't think that this is always going to take this long. Just take into account that I'm trying to get it so that you understand the concepts before trying to push fast. You always learn right before you learn fast. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going to check the temperature because I want to make sure it's actually cooking. So as soon as we're done with the garlic, I'm going to turn the temperature up to about 7. Maybe 6.5 to 7. And these will get more color even after you pull them out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because they're still cooking.
Right, so how do we know when they're done?
When they're golden or light golden.
Okay.
I always say GBD, golden brown delicious.
Nice.
I'm going to turn it up just a hair.
What's it at right now?
It's hovering right below 250 because the temperature did drop, so you have to take that into account. And I'm not used to the stove, so bear with me. It's a nice stove.
I like it.
I can't help it. If you ever walk into the back of a kitchen where it's not an open kitchen, you will see lots of different cooks and chefs dancing around the kitchen, listening to something. Like it's everywhere. Like it doesn't matter which restaurant you go to. There's somebody dancing in the back. Not all of them, but at least half the day you're going to see somebody, probably a prep cook. Okay, we're almost there.
Well, while it's finishing up, can you talk about what your tattoo is?
Oh! So, I had the idea for So 1 Corinthians 13, everybody knows that's the love verse, right? Faith, hope, and love. I got faith in a calligraphy, so it makes people think it's in another language, and they say, "What is that?"
Oh, it actually says faith. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see it.
and so it draws them in. It's kind of like a play on having your faith draw people in. Does that make sense? And then I'll have love in every language of every country that I visit on my neck and down my spine, hope over here, and then the roots of the love are in a cornerstone. Does it make sense? Yeah, that was the idea. Anyways, the garlic is just about there. I'm going to pull it now so that way it doesn't overcook, because it will cook faster than you think it will. It's easier if you kind of tip it like that, and you want to spread it out on the paper. Otherwise, it'll get
Is there another way to get it out if you don't have that?
A spider?
Tool.
You can use a spoon. You're just going to have to be really careful and drain the oil out the side of the spoon.
Or maybe a fork.
I wouldn't try the fork. But you can hear the crispiness of that garlic already. And now, I'm thinking, just because, for time's sake, the next batch, I'm going to drop in the rest of it. We're going to go a little bit faster this time. So if I was doing this in a restaurant setting, I would have been done an hour ago. I'm going to grab these guys.
There's nothing else to do during quarantine except enjoy our time in the kitchen, right?
That's true. If you have other things to do, man, I'm jelly. I would love something to do other than cook 99% of my day. Because when I'm not working, I'm just cooking. My wife is pregnant. What do you expect? She wants to eat every hour. It's gonna be the next baby boom.
Yeah.
It's true.
It totally is.
My kid's gonna be called a boomer. It's kind of cool. I see how it is. Quit putting your hands in the bowl, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just cleaning up a little bit.
So we have some at-home submissions. So here's what you guys are doing at home. This is from Jared and Laura King, and it looks like they're doing pretty well. I think in the comments they're saying that they're a little far behind, but it looks good. So
Nice looking batter.
Can I see?
You'll get
Can I
there
see? Can I
eventually.
see? You don't have to move it. It's okay. Oh dang! Looks great. This is their chicken. Solid. Good cuts, man.
so send in your photos to me. I don't know where. At my email address, alexanderkais@ahomeinseattle.com. You can just email me photos and we'll throw them up here. It'll be great.
We're getting there. Almost there. I'll crank it up a little bit. You know what? In fact, I'm just gonna start ramping it up, getting it ready for the fried chicken.
Nice.
It's already sucked down most of the water. Maybe we should put that in the refrigerator.
Yes.
It's probably a good idea.
Should we cover it?
You got any Ziplocs?
Yes.
That works. I hope you all have a sous chef just like I do. Someone to do your bidding. I'm just moving it around, agitating it, trying to get the water to come out. Trying to keep them from sticking to each other, so you have individual pieces of garlic. Ooh, that sounds so good. Ooh, I forgot to season. It's important to season immediately after pulling them out because it will adhere to the fried garlic. Anytime you fry anything, you want to season right after. It's still hot, and the oil's going to grab onto that salt. There's a little bit of saltless garlic in there, but it's okay. There'll be plenty of flavor in the green beans. Now, some of you might be wondering, why not just salt the oil? Well, because there's already salt in my batter, and I don't want double salt on my chicken, if that makes any sense. If you're wondering what these are actually, I use these when I worked a grill station. They're really good for reaching instead of using tongs, because tongs tend to, the springs bust. These are just one solid piece of metal to have a bit of resistance in the middle. Ooh, that's fun. All right. Woo! That's hot. Now you don't always have to break down your own chicken just to get your chicken fried chicken. Sometimes you can just buy some chicken. How many times can I say chicken in this video? Don't be a chicken. Just eat a chicken. That looks so good. This isn't even nearly as much as I wanted to do, but dude, that's solid. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, that right there, we're gonna turn on this guy, your front burner for your separate pan. It's that one. You want it about a medium. Get it nice and warm. Drop a little chili oil in there, and you're gonna mix in your green beans. And you're just gonna coat the oil onto the green beans. Add a little bit of salt. If you're not salty enough from when you blanch them, mine are fine. I could use a little more salt. Wouldn't hurt. Get your oil up to temp. If you don't know what frying oil temperature is, it's 350 to 375. Once you're there, you're going to put at least 3 to 4 pieces at a time. You don't want to overcrowd your pan. Like I said, it'll drop the temperature really quickly and then you'll have to wait. So we want this to go quickly. So we're going to do a little bit at a time and it's going to go by real quick. Whew. Where did I put my water bottle?
Back there.
Ah. And remember, when you're frying, do not walk away from the kitchen. It is a really bad idea.
Okay, I wasn't paying attention. What's this pan for again?
Green beans.
Green beans.
I know we already par-cooked them, but we're going to finish the cook. And it's actually less of a cook as it is more an adheration of the chili oil. I need a spoon, which I'm pretty sure you washed. Maybe not. Oh, it's in the bowl. I need another spoon. Got a spoon? I need a spoon. Because mine is all settled at the bottom, I gotta mix her up. Thank you, that's a nice spoon. You can see I just fried a bunch of chilies and a little bit of garlic on low, and slow until this should turn a little bit of color in GVD. My fryer temp is nice and hot. I'm going to pull the thermometer. And as long as you maintain the temperature, you shouldn't have any problems. Got my giant tweezers over here. And you're just going to go a couple pieces at a time. Like I said, you don't need to deep fry. You're just going to shallow fry some at a time. And I'm going to do enough to where I can plate these for you guys. That's probably enough. I can fit 5 in there. I don't know how big your pot is, so we're gonna go from there.
You're just trying to avoid them touching, right?
No, what you're doing is you're putting enough in there that they're going to cook quickly, but you're not going to lose temperature by adding too much. And if you put too many in there, they're going to stick together. If that makes any sense? I hope it does. Otherwise, what am I doing? Alright, it's starting to get a little warm, but it's not quite there yet. I want this one about a medium. You know, you just want to coat it. We're just adding a little bit of chili oil to the green beans as like a flavor, and we're warming up the green beans at the same time.
How do you know when these chickens are ready?
Well, I do have a thermometer in my pocket, so if you feel confident that your chicken is completely cooked, you can just eat it. If you want to check it, you can probe it with the thermometer. I have a standard issue probe thermometer right there. Open it up, temperature turns on. You're looking for the same thing, like golden brown delicious. That one can go a little bit longer.
So
or
can you, if it goes golden brown delicious, can you assume that it's cooked all the way through?
with the size of chicken piece of this, yes, absolutely. But if you're unsure and you're a little bit weary, you can always do the probe, or you can take the biggest piece out of your batch and just cut a little slit into it and check the thickest part of that piece. So like this piece is a little bit fatter, mostly because it has skin on it. But you can see that it's nice and crispy. I'm so hungry. This will only be my second meal of the day, dude. I can stop thinking about fried chicken all day. I wonder what my wife's eating right now.
Does she like to cook?
Yeah, but she usually cooks mostly Filipino food. She's trying to learn some other foods. For the most part, I'm not going to put that there because that seems a little sketchy. Okay, that's warm. So this pan is warm, and we're doing it at the same time so that way all the food is hot at the same time. Your oil nice and mixed up. Now, like I said, you can use sambal. You can use chili oil. Oop, that's burning really quickly. Vaporized chilies. Sorry for choking. I got a landing plate. Where's the plate right there?
Take it out?
Yes, please.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's vaporized. That. You can just add the rest of these in. Because you're going to vaporize oil if you don't. These are looking golden brown. Bring your tray over to your chicken so you don't drip everywhere. And you see in the back, I'm actually using my little spider as a splatter guard. A little more chili oil. Sorry about the vapors. That's all you're doing. Turn that guy off. Continue to fry your chicken. Sorry about the vapors, guys.
Okay, while you continue frying chicken, we have some more photos. This is from, who is this from? This is from Patty. Patty Slack, and it looks like, I need to see what it looks like.
Be careful on the vaporization of the chilies, by the way. It kind of hurts.
So it looks like Patty's making great progress on her cooking. There's a lot of chili in here.
Sorry. You gotta be careful. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, and when your chicken is ready and it's cooked, you should throw it immediately into your bowl of sauce because you want to melt that stuff right away. You just give it a quick drying. And what you can do, if it's still stiff, is you can take a spoon. In fact, no, that's not an idea. Where's your spoons again? You can take a spoon with a little bit of hot oil, or a little bit of oil. Throw that in there and it'll melt it right up. And the goal is just to melt the butter and it will come together. Sorry, dude. I'm so sorry. Where is my... Oh. And as you add more hot chicken to the bowl, if your sauce is still stiff, it'll melt. Now, I feel like a lot of people who don't make fried chicken because they're afraid of undercooking the chicken. But when your pieces are this small, there's much less of a chance of doing that. And if you have a thermometer, you really don't run any risk. You want to try some of these? Oh wait, I forgot. Just a mountain of garlic. You know.
You have some garlic to show from,
So we have some more garlic to show. This is from Ryan Phillips. That is looking excellent.
Good job, everybody. Even I get a little bit questionable about certain pieces. That's cooked. You can just throw it right in the bowl. Sorry about the texture. And it's so fast. That's literally like 2-3 minutes per piece. If you're making a bunch, you know, just don't bring your oil up to too high of a temperature, and you won't have any burning of the oil, and your chicken will be evenly cooked. I did leave some skin in here so you can see the difference in texture. Well, I guess you can't see texture, but you can definitely feel texture. So if you followed along and left a couple skin pieces, you'll get what I'm saying. Sorry, that was kind of harsh on the lungs. That's too much. All right. I'm going to pull this away. Oh, I almost forgot. While you're frying your chicken, make sure to breathe. Get your green onions ready. I like to line them all up. Make sure they're washed. Yeah. And keep an eye on your chicken at the same time. You could have done this earlier. We could have done this earlier, but for the sake of time, you're just going to slice them nice and thin. Same technique as I showed you earlier with the tucking. I'm so sorry. You want to check the chicken?
Yes.
Make sure it doesn't burn?
Where are the tongs?
Well, you can use those, that's fine. Just give them a turn.
They're really small.
Yeah.
Is this the one that you used?
No, I used the big ones. They're in the bowl. Here.
Oh, there you
Cooking with Nick. And gas everybody out with some chili vapors. Be careful with that. It can be a little volatile. Anyways. Chicken across. Once it gets warm enough in the bowl, it'll start to loosen up. Give yourself a nice plate. I'm going to do it over here so you can see what I'm doing. Where's my little tongs? Aha! Thank you. I'm going to just, you can even just use a spoon. It's a little bit easier. Like that. This little plate of fried chicken. This over here with these guys. Some green onions. Some toasted sesame. And you got it. There you go. Some gochujang hot wing Korean fried chicken and chili garlic beans.
That looks amazing.
You guys should eat it.
Oh my god. Okay, we have another picture.
Not quite yet.
Almost. It's coming.
You should seriously eat some before it gets cold.
Luckily, I have a fork.
Oh man, that's awesome. Oh, good thing I checked it.
That was amazing. That's really good.
Well, thank you. And this concludes our broadcast show. I'm just kidding.
No, we got a pairing.
We got a what?
A pairing. We have a beverage pairing.
Oh, what? I wasn't aware of this.
You're the one that recommended it.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that. See how I am? Now, obviously, if you guys just chose breast or thigh, that's completely okay. Just be aware that breast will cook very quickly.
Now, you recommended a plum sparkling cider,
Yeah. Oh, wait, that's right.
which sounded really good, but we forgot to get that. So
Oh.
we ended up just getting a regular cider.
That's totally okay. You know what? Apples are a big thing in Washington, so let's rock it.
So, enjoy.
Why would you recommend this?
So chicken, so if you're doing, like, let's say you're doing a wine pairing, chicken or usually poultry, you want to go for something lighter, like a white wine. But because it's the season for spiced things, my mind immediately went to like a spiced cider, and plums are delicious. I don't know. I just like plum. And also, plum jam. Classic thing that I do in the holidays. I always have leftover plums and I make jam, and I think I told you earlier, I can a lot. So I have a lot of jams and jellies and preserves and thank you. Cheers. Ooh, that's good. I hope you guys enjoyed all of this. I mean, hopefully next time I can narrow this down to just an hour.
Okay, before we end here, I think that we should try this.
Yeah.
But first we have the Kings, Jerry and Laura. They fried up some garlic successfully.
Ooh.
So let's look at that.
All right. Looks good.
Okay, we're finishing up here, and I don't know which camera we're looking at. Okay, so we're finishing up here. Just few last minute chickens to cook up. I think we should try this and toast for a successful culinary institute, the inaugural culinary institute. So cheers! Thank you so much, Jenny.
Of course. Cheers.
I hope you guys enjoyed this, and you were able to make some really good fried chicken. Let's get one last shot of what this all looks like.
I think that's a hunk of butter.
That is a hunk of butter.
It's okay. I like that.
So we have some Korean fried chicken with
Gochujang
sauce and some really tasty looking green beans and fried garlic.
Send in your photos, and thanks so much, everyone, for joining in.
This has been a home in Seattle. If you're thinking about making a home in Seattle, send me a message. Bye.